On the first Saturday in May, out of 40,000 thoroughbreds born in 2007, Backtalk was one of 20 horses which ran in the 2010 Kentucky Derby. But there is always another problem to solve, another challenge to address. The latest mountain to climb is that of horse manure, which gets carted off from the stalls with the straw or the wood chips and then transported to a holding site where, if not properly handled, it can leach into the ground and become a potential contaminant to groundwater reservoirs. This problem afforded me the opportunity to explore my vision of green energy to create a biomass solution. I believe that developing the entire spectrum of energy sources is important, and green energy must play a role until solar-powered or wind-powered vehicles take over. We must have all sources of energy to satisfy our needs, and obviously it remains essential to continue to harvest the natural resources of oil and natural gas as well to meet global demand. Horse manure, to date, has been difficult to handle because it is mixed with chips or straw which burn or disintegrate at quite different temperatures. Though horse manure has yet to be effectively recycled, I am working with an enterprising inventor willing to tackle the problem. And to date, the only biomass breakthroughs have been in the agricultural anaerobic digestion systems. And that process, as you know, takes time for effective digestion in landfill expenses. At this moment, we have effectively operated a miniature model of a biomass power plant to generate electricity from Goldmark stall waste. Under construction is a full-scale plant with a gasifier reactor at Goldmark to convert biomass into its raw elements of primarily solid carbon biochar and syngas, a hydrogen carbon monoxide gas. The gaseous fuel is filtered to safely power an internal combustion engine, and you can just see it in the background, a giant engine generator to produce electricity to the grid. We believe we have achieved design feasibility of the biomass gasification self-contained system to connect to the electric power grid via net metering. And if we are able to initiate the world's first biomass gasifier reactor, and as you can see, I've put my money heavily into this by even building the building before we have the process perfected at this scale. If we're able to initiate the world's first reactor, the marketing opportunities to racetracks and to other farms, and racetracks, many racetracks are even located in urban areas, will be very great. It's my earnest belief that every challenge is placed into our lives to provide opportunities for solutions and learning. God never brings a challenge that He doesn't also give to each of us the gifts of creativity, resilience, tenacity, steadfastness, resoluteness, and decisiveness. May you be blessed and privileged to make your dreams come true. At this time, I would be delighted to entertain questions, and I also would questions, and I'll try to answer them. To begin with, I believe that eventually our country will realize that there really are some resources, some vital resources in Alaska as well that we can use effectively and be able to bring economically to bear. That I certainly hope that our government is going to continue to move vigorously into all areas of generating energy, whether it's oil and gas, where I'm involved actively, whether it's nuclear, whether it's solar, whether it's wind power, whether it's biomass. We need them all, and we need them all. And if we had them all, and we had them all coming to bear, life would be better for us. I'm not an advocate of trying to focus on one over the other. I believe the marketplace will bring that to bear. I think we are bright enough people that if there is a cheaper fuel or a less expensive way to conduct our business and to transport ourselves from place to place, we are creative and innovative enough to find ways to make that happen. And I want America to lead this world, not give the leadership up in the areas of energy to other countries. And then you also asked a question about whether ATP would be involved in land exploration or land development. When I started up ATP, I surrounded myself with some very bright, creative people, handpicked from the industry. And I believe that a company's effectiveness has a lot to do with its people. The people I was able to surround myself with all have extensive backgrounds in the offshore. And we have been able to, the reason that you saw ATP so highly ranked in the deep water is because my folks have been able to utilize effectively the technology breakthroughs. And ATP also has 8 patents and 6 patents pending on designs and processes that we are bringing to the marketplace to bear. I think also when you saw, and I shared with you earlier about the safety redundancy, we believe in that our industry has drilled 58,375 wells in the Gulf of Mexico without ever having a BP oil spill. Means that the industry that I'm involved with also has been very focused on policing itself and ensuring that it's responsible and safe. I think it's unfortunate when there's an accident, and yet, when you look back in the world, anytime there are innovative efforts, there are going to be people who don't handle the responsibility effectively. And I think what BP did was unfortunate. I can speak extensively about that if you like. I think what they did was also negligent and grossly negligent. That is an opinion that is shared also with BP's partner in the company, Anadarko, has also already said publicly, and Anadarko is privileged to a lot more documents about everything that happened than I am, certainly. But Anadarko has already said publicly that they're not paying for that spill because there was negligence and gross negligence. That tells you a lot. And also from the testimony that I have seen personally before Congress and before the Coast Guard, um, there were red flags that my driller wouldn't have even had to pick up the telephone and call me and say, gee, should we arrest the drilling on this? He would have shut it down. There are at least 4 red flags that we absolutely would not have financed. And you look at the automobile industry, I'm sure when Mr. Ford came out with his vehicles, there were responsible drivers and there were irresponsible drivers. And there still are accidents that happen. No matter how safe our vehicles have become, we still occasionally have accidents. There are plane crashes occasionally. But did we shut down the airline industry after a crash? The entire industry? No, we didn't. I can speak more. Any other questions?
Back here.
Okay, in the back with the baseball, the New York cap.
Did your company do anything to try to like help out with the oil spill?
We were involved. We were involved in some of my people were helping with bringing thoughts, the creative thoughts into the process. And what is an absolute dismay to me is that there were many countries around the world that also offered to help, and our government turned them down. And when you have a spill, when you have a problem, you should get after it immediately. And 3 days after the BP oil spill, the Dutch, who were the best at building dikes in the world, the Dutch offered their technologies to create some berms, some dikes in front of the marshlands to keep the oil from coming out. They also offered technologies, some suction technologies that they have employed. And they also are the best in the world at that. Those are technologies that the Saudis used in the Middle East when they had some offshore spills. Some suction technologies where the plumes that were spewing out of the ground are sucked onto a vessel where the oil is separated from water, and the water goes overboard and the oil goes into tankers. And it's a process that could have kept things very pristine very quickly, and they were turned down. We don't have those technologies yet because, this was a negative in the press instead of a positive that we drilled 58,000 wells without a spill. And we didn't develop that kind of technology, though the method that finally, if you go back to, if you remember I talked about the SID. The blow-off preventer stack that we are using at the mud line, and if you remember, BP also on its rig had a blow-off preventer stack on the mud line. That blow-off, the SID that we have, is similar to the facility that was employed to stop the leak finally. It was plugged into the top of the BP stack that didn't function properly. We felt, and we offered this, that should have been tried first, not after 70 days, 60 days, however long it was before they tried it. Not after that period of time. It should have been tried first. But the government, again, was actively involved at that point in forcing BP to take some actions that were not as effective as what they could have been. And they then kept ratcheting up until they finally got to this point. But this is what we propose that they do immediately, like soon, very within days after they had their blowout. And then we additionally put a BOP stack on the platform itself. And so we have a stack up and a stack down, so that the problem that with the gas coming up to hit the vessel and cause it to explode, so you no longer have any control over it. We believe that we designed around that problem. I'm proud of what our folks have done. I'm very, very proud of the efforts that my company has done in ensuring that we have always drilled safely and environmentally responsibly. A question here?
One year that we said that the vision about your company, but how did it come about? Why did you do this? Why did you do this before we utilized it for education? How did you get into the oil industry?
The question related to how I had a vision to start up ATP almost 20 years ago, 19 plus years ago. And having started up two very successful companies for other people, and each one was in the natural gas marketing area. Earlier in my career, I spent some time in Washington in a regulatory role for my company, Tenneco. I was regulatory counsel for them in Washington. And I addressed things on the regulatory side with the agencies in Washington. And while there, I really was able to see what all of the other companies were doing, because that was part of my job, to ensure that Tenneco was always properly positioned to keep all of its matters going and moving through Washington. And I think the ability to see, while I was working for Tenneco, to see what all the other companies were doing, I became aware of opportunities there, like natural gas deregulation, which I then took back, and I went back to Houston again, took back to my new employer, and suggested that we start up a natural gas marketing company to be able to be very active in natural gas regulations. And then, after those two experiences, I really believed that I would be able to start up a company to be a bottom feeder. That as the existing independents were moving on to take what the majors were leaving behind, I felt there was the opportunity for a small independent to position themselves properly. And I decided to position ATP on the low-risk end, the developmental end, rather than the high-risk end with exploration efforts, where the best exploration is